Hey everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was Mei's personal bodyguard, and got harem, part 1, so before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, foxsage. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the savior of the village Konoha, the youngest to master the art of the toads, and probably the only one alive that dared to stand up against the Godame Mizukage. The young blonde, age 16, stood in front of the well-respected Mizukage. It wasn't his fault that he accidentally touched her ass. His hands just acted on its own, without him even knowing. Look here, old hag. I said I was sorry, so no beef, Naruto said flatly. He didn't really care what the woman would do to him. It wasn't like she was some insanely strong kunoichi, right? The fact was, he didn't even know who this woman was. The Mizukage gasped as she heard the young teen's reply. She was not an old hag. For God's sake, she was only 25. What did you just say, brat? For your information, I'm only 25. She stated. And if I'm so old, why did you bother touching my ass? The two were currently arguing in the middle of the once shopping district of Konoha. Now it was in the rebuilding stage, just like the rest of the place. There was a big crowd around them, currently betting on who would win the fight, if there was one. Look, I said it was an accident, just calm down and move on. Naruto really wasn't going to fight a girl. Actually, he wasn't in any mood to fight. Mei sighed. The blonde pervert in front of her was right. Maybe it was just an accident, and she was just overreacting. Fine, I'll let this slide, but if you ever touch me again, I'll melt your balls off. Her tone was serious, and the glare she gave was pretty scary. Naruto gulped at the woman's warning. He immediately stepped aside as the woman walked off. He sighed in relief as the auburn-haired woman was out of sight. There was no denying it, that woman was hot, and with that blue dress just barely hanging from her shoulder, revealing a lot of cleavage, it would make anyone touch her ass. But of course, he touched it by accident, though it did feel good. Her butt was firm and soft. He shivered from all the perverted thoughts, but shook all of it out. He really shouldn't be thinking about this stuff. He was really starting to become a pervert. But the mention of the word pervert made him remember his old sensei, the old Ero Sennin. The blonde then continued on his way to his temporary sleeping section. Since most of the buildings were destroyed, including his apartment, people had to sleep in tents at a designated place, and his one wasn't far from where he was now. The tent itself wasn't that big, or small. It was just medium-sized to fight one person and most of his belongings. Naruto quickly entered the tent, and felt the goosebumps on his arms disappear. He missed his old orange and black jacket, and his other orange clothing. The thing was, all his clothes were destroyed during the Pain invasion, and he was left with only one pair of his orange clothing, but the last pair was currently being washed, and he was left with nothing to wear. Luckily though, Kakashi gave him one of his black tank tops that he used to wear when he was in ANBU, and standard black ninja pants. The clothes did look good on him, but winter was coming closer, and this type of clothing won't keep him warm. He also felt so revealed wearing it. He hoped that the shinobi clothes store would be back up and running before the snow comes, or he would probably freeze. He sighed at the thought of winter as he took off his Konoha vest. Yes, he got promoted by Tsunade when she heard about his victory over Pain. Naruto calmed down a bit as he rested his body on the mattress. It wasn't as comfortable as his bed, but at least it was soft and clean. He was lying on his stomach with his head turned to the right. His eyes were currently staring at a particular wooden box. It was left behind by his dad, the great Yondaime Hokage. Tsunade gave it to him as a gift for his promotion too. Naruto got off the mattress and went to pick up the box. He had opened it a week ago and read everything inside. There was a letter that his dad had wrote to him before he fought the Kyuubi. It pretty much explained why he sealed the Kyuubi into him and about all the other stuff in the box. It included the special 3-pronged kunai that made his father special, a scroll which included all that his father created, and sealing scroll that contained his dad's other favorite weapon. Naruto was planning to practice all that his father left him, mostly the Hiraishin, during his break. He had ordered 100 of the special kunai to be produced, and the owner of the shop said that it would be ready in a week's time, which would be tomorrow, since he ordered it a week ago. And in the meantime, he was just reading about the concept of the harem and all its mechanics, so it would be easier for him to do, since he knew how it worked. Mizukage-sama, the Hokage is awaiting your arrival. Please follow me, and Anbu stated. Mei smiled and nodded at the Anbu. Thank you, Umbu-san, she replied cheerfully, but inside, she wasn't smiling. Apparently, the young teen before was still in her mind. She still felt like melting the teen's balls off for touching her, but because really, she doesn't like people to touch her ass without her consent, though the boy was pretty handsome, not to mention that he had some nice muscles. Mei inwardly groaned. She couldn't believe she was still thinking about the guy, and she was thinking bad things that could only happen in bed. And for some odd reason, she liked the way the blonde teen touched her ass, and again, for some odd reason, she wanted more. She had to admit it. The young blonde had a nice hand. She followed the Anbu until she arrived at a partly destroyed Hokage tower. It was still under construction, but was close to finishing, since the building was one of the places that the Konoha Council said had to be up and standing first, though she wondered if the Hokage was using the building right now. Her question was answered when the Anbu took a left turn to a path that led to a big tent. This is the temporary office for the Hokage. Hope that it does not disturb you in any way, the Anbu said as they reached the entrance. He stopped in front of the entrance, and made a gesture for her to go in. Please enter, he said politely. Thanks again, Umbu-san. She gave him a small smile before entering. Inside the tent, Mei immediately bowed her head slightly as she was in the presence of the Godame Hokage, Tsunade Senju. She was sitting comfortably on her chair while busy reading a particular form. Hokage-sama, Mei greeted me. The Hokage looked up and let a small smile out. Nice to see you that you accepted my invitation, Mizukage-sama. I would really like to talk to you about something. It's my pleasure that you invited me here, and I am eager to know what was so important that you insist that I come. About a week ago, Mei received a letter from Konoha that said the Hokage wanted to have a talk with her. So, what is it? I believe you remember your injured shinobi Ao? Tsunade started. Yes, he is still in the hospital. But not in a very good condition. Well, as you know, the shinobi that almost caused Ao his life was identified, and I feel as though I have to repay you for that, since Ao-san was injured by one of our own, Tsunade explained calmly. Repay me? Mei questioned. How, may I ask, are you going to repay me? Tsunade clamped her hands together, and leaned back into her chair. Well, I would like to send one of our shinobi with you as your personal bodyguard, since I believe Ao-san was your previous one. Mei laughed. Why would she want another bodyguard? She could handle herself perfectly, and it's not like she couldn't take another one of her own shinobi to become her personal bodyguard. And why would I want that? I could ask one of my own men to become my bodyguard, she stated with a smirk. Well, Tsunade started, a grin appearing on her face. But can your other men match your previous one in power and skill? That hit her hard. What the Hokage said was true. No one in her village was as strong as Ao, except her, of course. But who in this village was as or stronger than Ao? And who is this person? Tsunade's grin turned into a smirk. I believe you have heard about Uzumaki Naruto? Mei gasped in surprise. Uzumaki Naruto, the hero of this village, the one that had beaten Pain, and also the apprentice of the dead Toad Sage. She had never seen this person before, but people told her that he had a special aura around him. You can't be serious. This Naruto person, must he be important to your village? Are you just going to let him go? Well, it would be a big blow for us to lose one of our greatest shinobi, but it seems that the Akatsuki is currently in hiding again, and probably won't attack any time soon. Tsunade was right, the Akatsuki were currently in hiding, and from what her spies said, the Akatsuki won't attack any time soon. But still, why would the Hokage let one of their best go? There must be another reason, but what is the real reason, Hokage-sama? Mei pushed. I know that you wouldn't be giving me your best shinobi for only that reason. Tsunade sighed. Her smirk disappeared from her face, leaving only a sad frown. Mizukage-sama, do you remember about 5 years ago, you came here asking for help from the Sandaime? Yes, Mei remembered that. She had come here asking for assistance to overthrow the rogue Yondaime Mizukage, but unfortunately, the Sandaime Hokage declined, because they had another thing to worry about. What about it? Mei asked with a frown. She didn't really like the memory of it, since she actually had to beg the previous Hokage, and it was embarrassing. Well, it seems one of the wishes left behind by the Sandaime was to help Kirigakure. Believe it or not, that old man felt sympathy for you and promised that he would help you when this village's problem was solved, Tsunade explained. And my reason for this is because I want to grant his wish, and hope to make a true alliance with you. An alliance? Mei repeated, quizzical at the choice of words. Aren't we already in an alliance? Tsunade chuckled. Mizukage-sama, you must remember, the alliance that we are in now won't last. It would only stand until the Akatsuki were taken care of. After that, the other villages would go their separate ways, Tsunade said. So you mean, you want to become an alliance with us like the alliance you have with the sand? Tsunade nodded. I see now that you understand the situation, so? How about it? Mei smiled and nodded. I see this as way of making my village strong, since you know, my village is still recovering. So is it a yes? Tsunade asked, her eyes glinting with hope. I accept your offer, Hokage-sama. But I have a question. How long is this Uzumaki person going to be my bodyguard? Well, until your previous bodyguard recovers, Naruto would fill in his place. But that would be at least 5 months. Aosan's injury is very serious, as you know. His spine was badly damaged. Most of his organs were badly punctured, not to mention that his brain was badly damaged. And even after he recovers, he wouldn't be able to straight away come back to his shinobi life. He would have to do a lot of rehabilitating training so his body would become fit as before, and that would take a whole year. 1.5 years? That was an awfully long time, I know that already. I did my calculation and I figured that he could become the ambassador there for Konoha, while also being your personal bodyguard. Mei sighed in defeat. Seems like the Hokage whipped up a really good deal. I guess I have to accept. But may I see this man first? Tsunade smiled. Of course, I already told my Umbu to call him here. He should be here in a few minutes, believe it or not, Mizukage-sama. But I haven't told him about this yet. I was hoping that he would come at the same time as you, but I guess I have to explain it again. Tsunade sighed and shook her head. But please take a seat. Tsunade pointed with her eyes to the leather-coated chair to the left of the tent. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Naruto groaned as he was suddenly disturbed. He cracked his right eye open to see what the problem was, and right in front of his face was his sensei, Kakashi Hatake, the famous copy-nin. Kakashi-sensei? Naruto mumbled, his brain still foggy from sleep. Then, both eyes snapped open. Kakashi! What the hell are you doing here? The blonde exclaimed, immediately jumping out of his bed. The Hokage summoned you. I think it's for a mission, answered the masked sensei. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Mission? Naruto repeated, confused. But I'm on break. Why would I have a mission now? Kakashi sighed. I don't know, Naruto, but it seems pretty important. I think she is going to give an S-rank mission, Kakashi said flatly. Though it affected Naruto big time. Naruto immediately jumped onto his feet. Are you serious? An S-rank? I didn't know I got S-rank missions, Naruto said while dressing up. He quickly put on his vest, then his utility belt which held his weapons pouch. After that, he took the special box out and unrolled one of the scrolls. He did a couple of hand signs before slamming his palm onto the center. Immediately after that an object appeared from it. One was a special trench coat that Fukasaku had made for him. It was similar to his old red trench coat, but this time, it had a high collar and the kanji for toad at the back. It still had the black fire designs on the bottom, and the short sleeves. He quickly put it on and took the second object from the scroll, a sword. It wasn't just any sword. It was the sword that his father used to use when he was in Umbu. It was a katana, but it was slightly longer than the usual 80 centimeters length. The sword also had its hilt wrapped in beautiful glossy black silk, intertwined with yellow silk. He wrapped the sword around his back with a smile. Naruto wasn't that good in using swords, but this sword somehow felt comfortable in his hands, like he was meant to use it. Lastly, he put on arm guards for protection. Wow, Kakashi gasped. Nice attire, thanks Kaka-sensei. So do I have to go now? He asked. Kakashi's sweat dropped. He might have dressed like a professional shinobi, but his brain needed working. Yes, Naruto, he breathed. You have to see her now. See ya then, Kaka-sensei, Naruto said with the famous grin of his before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Tsunade looked up as Naruto appeared in a puff of smoke. She's got to say, the boy looked good in his new attire. Even the Mizukage was surprised to see him. I'm here, Ba-chan, Naruto exclaimed. So what's the problem? He stopped when he realized that there was someone else in the tent. And that person felt familiar. His eyes widened in realization. He whipped his body around and pointed a finger accusingly at her. You, May, also standing up, pointed at the blonde at the same time he did. You! She yelled, though it was at the same time as him. What the hell are you doing? Naruto asked roughly. Don't tell me you're the Uzumaki? She groaned in annoyance. So what if I'm Uzumaki? What does it have to do with you, old hag? May gasped. This kid had broken the line. You're dead. I'm gonna melt your balls off. She straight away went for the kill and leaped at him. Naruto saw this and took out a kunai at lightning speed. But before contact, they were both pushed away by the other shinobi in the room, the one and only Tsunade Senju. She was now pissed, and everyone knew that when she was pissed, bad things tend to happen. Both Naruto and Mei were on the ground, groaning. That hurt, Ba-chan, Naruto said while rubbing the back of his head. Mei remained quiet as she pushed herself up. She glared at Naruto as she stood up, but then her eyes softened at Tsunade. I'm sorry, Tsunade, for my behavior. It was inappropriate of me. Don't worry, Mizukage-sama, Tsunade said. It's Naruto here that needs to learn some manners. Naruto curled an eyebrow as he heard Mizukage. She's the Mizukage? Naruto asked, his face showing total cluelessness. Tsunade sighed. Yes, Naruto, she's the Mizukage. I suggest you apologize to her. Fine, Naruto sighed in defeat. He turned to the Mizukage and bowed. I'm sorry for my rude behavior, Mizukage-sama. For some odd reason, Mei blushed when the blonde apologized. He seemed to look mature when he acted like a gentleman. Don't worry about it. Just don't call me names anymore. Tsunade breathed out calmly. Good. Now that that's settled, let's get back to business. She went back to her seat behind the desk. Alright, Naruto, I have a special mission for you. Naruto's eyes started to sparkle as he heard her. Sweet. So what is it? Tsunade grinned. You see, I've made a deal with the Mizukage here, and part of it is for you to become her bodyguard. This is an S-rank mission. I expect you to complete this mission with your life. Me? Her bodyguard? Why? Because I chose you. You are the only one capable of doing it, Tsunade explained. You're only going to be gone from Konoha for 2 years. Naruto almost choked on his own saliva. 2 years? That's a long mission? Oh, come on, Naruto. Think of this as an opportunity to test your skill. You'll use it more than you ever use it here, trust me. Tsunade finished with a smirk. A lot of things passed through his brain. One of them was that this would be the perfect opportunity for him to train, since he had more free time. I'll accept it, Naruto said eagerly. When do we leave? Tsunade looked at Mei, who was currently having a battle with herself. So, Mizukage-sama, when are you leaving Konoha? Mei was currently talking to herself about Naruto. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt attracted to him. If only Naruto was a bit more mature, then she could probably accept him. Are you listening, Mei-sama? Oh, sorry about that. Can you please repeat the question? Naruto shook his head at this, causing her to give him a death glare. I asked you when you were leaving Konoha? Tsunade repeated. Mei laughed at herself for not listening. I'm sorry about that, but anyway, I'm thinking of leaving straight after this, since I have other business to take care of, back at Kiri. Today? Naruto repeated. He didn't want to leave so soon, he had to get his kunai tomorrow. Are you serious? Well, I did say to my village that I would return by next week, and if I leave today, then I'll be back on the exact day as expected, Mei explained, so you see, I have to leave today. Tsunade sighed. Well, Naruto, it seems like there's no choice. I'll give you 30 minutes to pack all your stuff, and then you can meet Mei-sama at the gate. She looked at Naruto, waiting for confirmation. So, what are you waiting for? Get moving! Naruto sighed and nodded. I'll get going, Naruto muttered, But before he was about to shunshin himself back to his tent, he saw the glare Tsunade gave him. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. What? He mouthed. Tsunade used her head to gesture to the Mizukage. Naruto saw what she was trying to do and nodded. He turned to the Mizukage and bowed. I'll see you later, Mizukage-sama, he said with a genuine smile before disappearing in a puff of smoke. The blush came back to her as she saw that smile of his. She felt her heart skip a beat from it. Thank you for this, Hokage-sama. She didn't know why she just stuttered, but her head was starting to get a bit dizzy. It was also getting pretty hot in here. She could sweat running down her neck, down her cleavage. Tsunade stood up and bowed. Thank you for your cooperation. I'll make sure that you won't regret this. Mei tried to smile, but she only managed a small one. I'll be leaving now. She then walked out of the tent and followed the umbu that had escorted her here to escort her back to the gate. Tsunade's smile faltered as she was left alone. She didn't like this idea of her much, but she knew she needed to, for the sake of Naruto's safety. From what she had heard about Akatsuki, they were probably concentrating their attacks on Kumogakure and here. Since Tsunade knew that they were after the Jinchurikis, at least this way, she could achieve 3 things with one sacrifice. 1, she would be able to keep Naruto safe. 2, was that she could get a solid alliance with Kirigakure. And 3rd, Naruto could learn more things with this experience. She then felt a hand on her shoulder. She slightly turned her head to look at the visitor. It was Kakashi. He had the usual expressionless face, but she could see approval in his eyes. You did the right thing, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade sighed. I hope I did, Kakashi. Naruto sighed as he packed all his stuff. He didn't have much, since most of his stuff was destroyed. The only thing he had now was the box that contained all his dad's possessions, the clothes that Kakashi had given him, his ninja gear, and his sword. That was pretty much it. He guessed that he would be traveling light. Because really, he didn't even need a backpack. All his possessions fit into just 2 scrolls. Now, all he had to do was ask the owner of the weapons store to see if it was ready, because he hoped it was. If it didn't, then he would probably be a couple of kunai short. He put the 2 scrolls into his pouch securely, and made sure to close the pouch properly. He then stood up and tightened his headband before disappearing in a puff of smoke. A second later, he was in the middle of the shinobi district, where you can find everything you need for a shinobi life. He walked into one particular tent that he knew was the weapons store. As soon as he was inside, he could smell all the steel from the weapons. Ah, Naruto, I see you're back. You came here at the right time, said the shop owner. He was already in his 50s, but he still had a strong body. I just finished your order. Thank God, Naruto yelled in his head. Seemed like everything was going smoothly for him, though he wished he had more time to say goodbye to his friends. Here it is, exclaimed the old man as he took out a scroll from a rack full of them. This is yours, 200 special kunai, done. He threw the scroll to Naruto, who caught it easily. Naruto bowed to the old man. Thank you, Grandpa. And here's the money. Naruto then took out a certain amount of money and left it on the counter. See you later. As he exited the shop, he was suddenly bumped into Kakashi. Ah, sorry, Kaka-sensei. Didn't see you there, Naruto said while scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Ah, don't worry, Naruto. I came here to give you something. Naruto stopped his little ministration as he heard his sensei. Here, take this. He handed Naruto a familiar orange book. I heard that you are going to leave the village for quite some time, so I'm giving you my favorite Ika book to you. Naruto took the book slowly, his brain still registering the words his sensei had said. Thank you, sensei. I'll make sure that I read it. No matter how perverted it is, I'll still read it. He then suddenly hugged Kakashi. He didn't know why he did it, but he felt that he had to. Thanks for everything, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi was awestruck for a second, but finally replied with a hug. He patted Naruto on the shoulder and murmured that he was proud of him. Stay safe, Naruto. This time, I'm not there to save you. Naruto pushed himself off Kakashi and laughed. I will, sensei. I'll remember your teachings. Kakashi then let out his famous eye smile. Well, you better go then. You don't want to be late, do you? Yeah, I hope to see you soon, sensei. Naruto yelled out as he started running to the main gate. Mei stood with her arms crossed over her chest. She had been waiting for minutes now. The little brat was supposed to be here ages ago. She tapped her foot impatiently and felt her rage grow. She didn't like to wait for anyone, she really hated it. Not to mention that she had to wait for some brat. Where is he? Mei yelled in her head. I swear if he isn't here in the next 10 seconds, I'm gonna leave him here. And she waited, and waited. 10 seconds had passed, and there was no sign of her so-called bodyguard. So as she had told herself, she was going to leave without him, but as soon as she took her first step out of the village, she could feel someone behind her. Going somewhere, Mizukage-sama? Naruto asked with a smirk. I hope that you weren't going to leave your bodyguard, were you? She turned to him with a smirk of her own. Well, I was actually getting a bit worried about you. I thought you had left before me. So that's why I tried to leave, she said with a sly grin. Naruto almost growled when he saw that grin. It was sexy. He cleared his throat in an attempt to restore his concentration. I believe we are behind schedule. We should leave now, Naruto said, sounding a bit more professional. He then started walking ahead but stopped when Mei didn't move. Coming, Mizukage-sama? Mei shook her head in amusement. Yeah. Coming. She quickly caught up to him before the two started walking. As they were walking, they started to introduce themselves more to each other, and for some odd reason, Mei felt more and more attracted to the young teen. With Naruto, he felt something spark inside of him when his skin accidentally touched her. This feeling caught him by surprise, but he didn't know what it meant. One thing about traveling through thick mist was that you can't see. The second thing that you should expect was that it would be cold, colder than what Naruto would have liked. And third, you couldn't see damn shit. You know, I get why you guys called it the hidden mist, but why the hell do you have to make it so thick? Naruto complained. It had been 4 days since they left Konohagakure, and had only gotten off a boat a couple of minutes ago. I think a baby could suffocate from all this muss you people make. Mei sighed in annoyance. Maybe the mist was a bit thick, but it was one of their main defense mechanisms. If they were under attack from outside, the enemy shinobi won't know where to go. They might just end up accidentally running into a tree and die. What do you expect, Naruto? If we say we have mist, then we have mist, lots of them. The fact still remained, he couldn't see anything, and it annoyed the hell out of him. He had to actually hold on to Mei so he wouldn't run into a tree, because the first thing that happened when they had left the boat was Naruto colliding with the damn tree. It wasn't that he didn't like to hold Mei's hand, it was just that he was uncomfortable with it. He felt as though he was invading her personal space. So how far is Kiri now? Not far, we just have to walk up a bunch of mountain paths, then a bit more walking, and we should be there, Mei said. She was pissed with herself for bringing up the holding hands idea. It wasn't because she was irked by him. It was just that she didn't feel comfortable with someone holding her hand. Though she had to admit it, Naruto's hand was pretty warm, and it comfortably covered her hands. And she knew there was no other way than this. If they didn't do this, Naruto would either wind up lost, or collide with another tree. I think we should reach Kiri in about 5 hours or less. Naruto though wasn't listening. He could already sense a bunch of Kiri surrounding them. It was expected, since it would be weird to see Yokage traveling with a mysterious nin without any notice. He paused walking for a second, just enough time for him to go into sage mode. He could now tell very clearly where all the were hiding. There were 5 on his right side, and 5 on the other, and it seemed they left 2 at the rear. Mei seemed to notice Naruto's sudden immobility, and she realized that he had suddenly changed. His chakra felt different, and he also looked different. His eyes were yellow instead of blue, and his pupil was in a different shape, like ones of the toads. Is this the form of a sage? But why the sudden change? Then she realized what the problem was. She could now identify each of the around her. She smiled to herself, and it seemed like Naruto was more cautious than she thought. Maybe all his goofiness was just a cover. People could easily underestimate him if he continued on with this mask of his. Don't worry, Naruto, they won't attack you or me. They're one of my team. I figured that out, Naruto answered flatly. He didn't like how the reacted with his arrival. Their chakra felt cold. Though they seemed to already hate me, he joked, trying to lighten the mood. Mei chuckled. I guess they don't like strangers holding their Mizukage's hand with such intimateness, she stated, though blushed at what she just said. She was known to be flirty in her village, but she never really took it seriously. It was all for jokes. Maybe the Umbu were jealous of this. Maybe they all had a crush on her? She giggled at that. Anyway, the mountain path is just up ahead. We're not far from Kiri now, Naruto sighed in relief. He was starting to get a bit tired from all the walking. He could now also see the mountain line up ahead. Naruto guessed that it was another one of Kiri's defenses, as it would act like a wall around the village. It was a smart choice of terrain. It was actually better than Konoha, if he had to be truthful. As the two got closer and closer to the village, Naruto became more and more relaxed. He had finally dropped his sage mode a couple of minutes back, and was now thinking about food. In all the rush, Naruto had forgotten to pay one last visit to Ichiraku. He had also forgotten to pack food for the journey, and so, the result was no food for 5 days. 5 hours later, as Mei had estimated, they could see the entrance to Kiri just right ahead, just a couple 100 meters more. I guess we're here, Naruto breathed out. His face expression was now neutral, and he seemed relieved. Yeah, I guess we are, Naruto, Mei replied. But I have one question for you, and I want you to answer this truthfully. Naruto's voice was suddenly serious, and a bit grim. Do you, or do you not have ramen here? Mei tried to hold her laughter back as she heard his question. Ramen? So Naruto's favorite food was ramen. Interesting. Her emerald green eyes started to sparkle with deviousness. She wondered what would happen if she said no. Ramen? What is it? Mei said, acting to be clueless. I haven't heard of it before. Her face showed pure innocence and pure cluelessness. Naruto immediately stopped walking as he heard her. His eyes were wide with shock. His mouth was slightly gaping from surprise. Did she just say that she hadn't heard of ramen before? But if she didn't know what ramen was, and she was the Mizukage, then that meant there was no such thing as ramen in Kiri. Naruto could have almost died of a heart attack. You can't be serious? Don't tell me Bachan sent me to a place with no ramen. Mei patted him on the head with a grin. Oh, relax, of course there's ramen here, Naruto sighed, letting out all the tension from his throat. Thank God, Naruto said. I thought you were serious. The two then continued walking. As they got closer, they could see a big crowd at the entrance. I see you have a big welcome back home party, Naruto murmured into her ear. She chuckled. Nah, I think they're there to welcome you. Since you are the unexpected guest. Naruto crossed his arm and a neutral expression covered his face. Let's see how that turns out. Naruto could feel a lot of Umbu-level shinobi hiding in the trees, and there seemed to be a lot of Jonin shinobi at the gate. It looked like there was no escape for him. As the two arrived at the gate, there seemed to be a lot of frowns when they saw Naruto. Takeo, one of the councilmen of Kiri, stood with all his shinobi behind him. He was left in charge by the Mizukage herself before her departure, and to hear that there was an unexpected guest traveling with the Mizukage from the border security, it must be something suspicious. He had rounded up all the Jonin in the village to the gate to greet their new guest. He had also dispatched all available Umbu to keep an eye on the unexpected traveler. It's good to see you back in one piece, Mizukage-sama, Takeo greeted with a bow. It's also nice to see the village still in one piece, Takeo-san. Naruto snickered from her comeback, but it earned him a frown from every single of the shinobi present, except Mei, of course. And I see that everyone here is fine as well. Yes, Mizukage-sama, we're all fine, but may I ask, who is this Konoha nin? From what his Umbu had reported, the unexpected nin was not to be meddled with. It seemed that he had a very unique type of chakra, and a lot of it too. It surpassed even the Kage's level. But he was shocked to see such a young person. He looked to be no more than a teen. Oh, this little fella? Mei asked with a big grin. She draped her arms over Naruto, causing everyone at the scene to gasp and also made Naruto blush. He's my new personal bodyguard. I want you all to meet our new friend, Naruto Uzumaki. What she just said didn't just cause everyone to gasp. Again, it even caused some of the shinobi present to faint. Naruto gulped in response. He knew that his name traveled around quite a bit, but he didn't think that saving Konoha from pain would have this big of an effect on his reputation. Really, he didn't expect that. Do you mean, he's the Uzumaki, savior of the leaf? Takeo asked, finding it quite hard to speak properly. Mei nodded in response, which caused more of her shinobi to falter. What is he doing here? How did you even get him? Well, I would like to discuss that. But do you really think that the village's entrance would be a good place to discuss these matters? Mei asked with a tint of sarcasm in her voice. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at her comment. Because, really, talking about the village's affairs where everyone could hear. This Takeo guy must be a novice in the council. Though he didn't look like it. He looked to be about in his late 40s, and his face showed experience. Naruto doubted that he was new at these matters. Right, now that that's out of the way, I want to clean myself first, if you people don't mind. She suddenly had an aura of authority, as she walked through the crowd. Everyone immediately got out of the way, knowing that if they didn't, they might just have their body melt away. Naruto followed her in tow as they entered the village. He had never been here before, and marveled at the architecture of the buildings. Instead of normal-shaped buildings, most of its buildings were cylindrical in shape. As weird as it sounded, it looked good and fitted the terrain perfectly. Like Konoha, life here went on normally with civilians mixed with shinobi bustling around with their own business. As the Mizukage walked past, everyone around them bowed in respect. It seemed like Mei was pretty respected here. Naruto didn't know much about the history of Kirigakure, but he remembered hearing about a civil war here a couple years ago. But now, the place didn't even look like it had been touched by war. Mei must have done a good job on rebuilding this village. Naruto then started to feel a new level of respect from him. She deserved it. The weather here seems better than outside, Naruto said, his gaze wandering around. I'm impressed, Mizukage-sama. You really did a number to this village. It's looking lively. Naruto was using his professional tone that he had learned from Kakashi. He actually noticed Kakashi talking formally when he needed to and talking in his own lazy way when he was with his friends. It gave him contrast. Mei blushed in response. Thank you, Naruto. It does look lively now, and everyone's hard work paid off, not only mine. Naruto chuckled at her modesty. One time she would be boasting about her skills, and other times it would be the opposite. She really puzzled him. But nevertheless, Naruto did feel attracted to her, though who wouldn't? Look at her. She had the body of a goddess. It was slender and graceful. She had beautiful long slender legs, not to mention a nice ass, which he had touched. Her chest was wow. It was probably not as big as Tsunade, but it wasn't small either. It was the perfect size. The other thing that caught his eyes was her emerald green eyes. They were bright and full of life. There were other things in her eyes that he couldn't read. It seemed like she had a lot of secrets. Her hair was the other thing. Her ankle-length auburn hair flowed smoothly down her body. It went with her perfectly. She had a mysterious look to her with bangs covering part of her right eye. Mei noticed that Naruto was checking her out. She felt as if she should give him a little slap, but decided to let him have his fun. It's not like she was going to let him touch it, right? Her thoughts went back to her own body. She felt sticky all over, and needed a shower, badly. She also needed some shut-eye. Traveling to and back from Konoha without a proper sleep had made her a bit tipsy. Not that she was showing it, as every Kage should know, never show any weakness. Here we are! Mei exclaimed. There was a big grin on her face as they stopped at the entrance. Naruto looked up at Mei's home and smiled. The estate wasn't like the other part of the village with the cylindrical designs. This one was like the Hyuga's, nice and traditional. There were 2 guards at the gate. They bowed respectively to Mei, and happily opened the gate for her, but they hesitated a bit when they saw Naruto. The front gate led to a small granite walkway which led to a medium-sized courtyard. The courtyard was beautifully decorated with various types of flowers and plants. There was also a small pond in the middle. This is the main courtyard, and as you see, this place is divided into 2, she said. You can pick one of the rooms on the right side. My room would be on the left side. You would know which one since it has a pretty fancy door, Mei explained. She patted Naruto on the shoulder before walking to the left side of the house. I'm going to take a shower. You should clean up too, then we could go and show you around, a bit. If you need anything, I'll just be a few steps away. Before Naruto could say a word, Mei had already disappeared into the rooms. He shook his head. Girls and their showers. Though a shower was what he also needed, his body was sticky all over, and he knew that he smelled. And so, he checked the right side of the house. There were a couple of decent rooms, actually, there were heaps of them. But Naruto made a decision that he would sleep in a room that was the closest to the courtyard. It would be easier for him to get to the Mizukage if there was an emergency. The room he chose was average, not very big, considering that he didn't have much stuff, it would be the perfect size. There was a queen-size bed in the middle of the room with a wooden side table on each side. The closet was of decent size, and could fit other things too. Like the other rooms in this house, there was a bathroom connected to it. Naruto sighed as he took the sword sling off his body. It's been hanging on his back for days, and it was starting to put a strain on his shoulders, because, really, the sword was heavier than it looked. He then proceeded to undress, taking his coat off first, then his vest and arm guards. Naruto felt uncomfortable as he took off his shirt, because he could sense a couple of Umbu watching him. He hoped that they wouldn't spy on him in the toilet. He decided that he would open his pants in the bathroom. It seemed safer to undress in there, because you never know, one of those Umbu might be a girl, or they might be a gay person. Naruto shuddered at the latter. He took a shower quickly, feeling uncomfortable with the presence of the Umbu. Luckily they were only watching the other room. Naruto wrapped a plain white towel that was left in the bathroom around his waist after he dried himself up. There was a basket set in the bathroom for dirty clothes, and so, he chucked his pants in there. Naruto then proceeded to his room and picked up his worn clothes from the basket, except his coat was still clean. He took out a scroll from one of his pouches and unrolled it. Just as he was about to release the items in the scroll, namely his new clothes, the door suddenly opened. Mei Terumi's head popped in, oblivious to the fact that Naruto wasn't dressed yet. Her eyes widened in shock. She quickly shut the door and murmured sorry. She couldn't hold off a blush as the image of Naruto's half-naked body appeared in her mind. Naruto had such a nice body, nice set of abs, perfectly chiseled chest, nice biceps, not to mention that he was still wet from his shower. It just made him sexier. Are you dressed yet? Mei asked, trying not to stutter. Inside the room, Naruto frantically tried to put his clothes on. He should have been more aware of her presence. He cursed himself for that. His face was red-hot from embarrassment, and he felt like slapping himself to death. He didn't like the idea of people seeing him naked. Even if he was half naked, it was still very uncomfortable. I'll be out in a sec, Mizu-sama, Naruto called out after he heard her ask. He quickly put his last piece of clothing on, and decided that he would leave his sword behind. He saw no reason for him to bring it, since they were safe in the village. I'm done, Naruto announced as he opened the door. Mei was leaning against the wall beside his door. Naruto could smell the scent of her hair as he walked out. It smelled like lavender mixed with the smell of the ocean. The shower did wonder for her. Her face was now practically glowing, not to mention that she looked more alluring. Naruto felt sorry for himself for actually falling for her, because he knew that the two of them could never happen. Took you a while, Mei stated. She pushed herself off the wall and straightened the kinks out of her dress. Now, we just have to explain all this to the council, then we have the rest of the day off. She beamed at the thought of sleeping for the whole day. Then we better get going, the faster we do this, the more time we have to doze off, Naruto said. Mei nodded in agreement. The meaning was obvious in the sentence. But as Naruto headed up to the entrance, Mei suddenly grabbed him roughly at his collar and pulled him back into her arms. You said you wanted to get this over with, right? Mei asked with a smirk. Naruto just nodded dumbly, not seeing what she was getting to. Because you know, there is such a thing as a shunshin. And as Naruto's brain realized what she meant, the two disappeared in a swirl of water. A second later, the two appeared directly in front of the Mizukage Tower. It was cylindrical in shape, like the other buildings, but it was much taller and wider. Now that was easy, wasn't it? She poked Naruto in the nose before entering the building. It left Naruto dazed. Did she just treat him like a kid? Bodyguards are supposed to stay with their client, you know, Naruto heard her call. Naruto chuckled and shook his head. Maybe this mission might be tough after all, seeing that the Mizukage was the obstacle. Apparently, the Mizukage's office wasn't much of a difference compared to Konoha's. There was the usual full-wall window that showed the entire village behind the Kage's desk, the usual book racks at the left side, and the comfort section for special visitors on the right side. And apparently, the security in here was pretty tight. Naruto could sense over 50 different chakra signatures. Man, talking about a prison, Naruto muttered to himself. He could feel all the umbus hidden in the room. Mei comfortably took a seat on the special Kage chair. Well, this is the Kage's office. What do you expect? She replied flatly. She was actually amazed at Naruto's sensing skill. It was beyond his age and rank. All the umbu in the room were her best, and they were the best in what they did, hiding. Even she has some trouble detecting them. Cho! She yelled. Immediately, a shinobi appeared in front of her. Naruto examined the shinobi the Mizukage had called, and straightway, he knew that he was among the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. It was pretty obvious from his gigantic sword that was slung over his back. He had turquoise blue hair, and a soft-looking face. Naruto could see that he had the same sharp teeth as Zabuza and Kisame. This person also wore black-rimmed glasses that seemed to be connected to headphones. His attire consisted of a blue long-sleeved striped shirt, and camouflage patterned pants. His forehead protector was embedded into what seemed like body armor that only covered his chest. Naruto, I want you to meet Chojuro, one of Kiri's finest shinobi, Mei announced with a slight pride in her voice. Chojuro, this is Uzumaki Naruto. He'll be staying here in Kiri for a while. And nice to meet you, Naruto-san, Chojuro greeted timidly. There was a blush evident on his cheeks as he brought his hand up for a shake. For some reason, this guy might be a perfect match for Hinata. They both have a similar personality. Naruto grinned broadly. Nice to meet you too, Chojuro. Naruto gladly took his hand and shook it. Mei could see the contrast between the two, Naruto, the confident one, while Chojuro might need to work on his ego. Maybe Naruto could teach a thing or two to Chojuro, to boost his confidence. Well, now that that's over, Chojuro, can you please call Takeo-san here? After Takeo arrived, Mei started explaining the current situation, while Naruto just lied back against the wall with his arms crossed. Naruto knew that it might take a while, but hey, who said diplomacy was easy? After a while, about 10 minutes later, Mei had explained and discussed everything thoroughly with Takeo, and the old man seemed pleased with what he heard. I see, the old man murmured, nodding his head a few times. Takeo turned around to face Naruto, a smile on his face. Welcome to Kirigakure, Uzumaki Naruto. I hope you take good care of our Mizukage. People like her only appear once in a generation. He patted Naruto on the shoulder before leaving the office. Well, now that this is over, you want ramen? Mei asked with a grin. Although she didn't even need to ask, the answer was painfully obvious from the expression Naruto was showing. It had been 2 weeks since he had arrived here, in Kirigakure. He was assigned by the Hokage to protect the Mizukage with his life. The mission was going smoothly, nothing interesting happened. It seemed like Kiri or its Kage wasn't in any danger. Naruto wondered why Tsunade had sent him on this mission. Actually, he was puzzled. Why would Tsunade have sent him here to protect someone but that someone wasn't even in any danger? Though he was confused with the mission, he was apparently enjoying his stay here in Kirigakure. For the past 2 weeks that he was here, he was already friends with 3/4 of the Kiri shinobi corpses. His relationship with the village was average, nothing special there. But his relationship with Mei, the Mizukage, was steadily growing. Even though all he had done in this village was following her around, he kind of liked it. Not to mention that he had made solid progress in his Horatian training. Every morning, at about 5 o'clock, Naruto would wake up and train until the Mizukage was finally awake. Right now, Naruto had just finished his morning shower and was putting on his clothes. The sky was still dark and dawn was still an hour away. With his enhanced hearing, he could hear the Mizukage's calm breathing. It somehow soothed his ear, it also calmed him down. He picked up all his shinobi gear and proceeded to Mei's private training field. She had given him access to it, since she rarely used it, and because she would always spend 3/4 of her day in the office. Lately, she's been busy with the Elemental Nation Alliance, and had little time for herself. Now, Naruto realized just how hard it was to be a Kage. To be a Kage was one thing, but to become a good one was another thing. Like any elite ninja, Naruto sneaked out of the house without making a single noise. This was his normal morning routine. He would sneak out of the house, making sure not to wake the Mizukage, because God knew that she needed her sleep. His morning training consisted of 3 parts. 1. Meditation, for his sage training. 2. Harem training. 3. Standard physical and ninjutsu training, which just meant that he would create a bunch of clones and ask them to do a specific thing. The meditation training was one of the most important things he had to improve in, because this would benefit his sage mode. It would allow him to stay in sage mode for a much longer time. He sighed as he sat into the meditation form. As expected, his heart rate started to lower down to a much more calm and soothing beat. Mei Terumi noticed that she was alone in the house. Her eyes snapped open immediately as she felt Naruto's presence disappear from the house. It was expected. She had known about his early morning training for a couple of days now. It was a couple of days ago when she found out about his training in the morning. Though it was an accident that she found out, she was mysteriously awoken by something. And from that day, she would wake up at the exact time as Naruto when he left the house. At first, she thought he was just having a morning stroll, but as she started to follow him around, she found out that he was training. She had to admit it though, watching him train was pretty interesting, especially when he started to train shirtless. Mei giggled at the thought. Naruto had only been here for 2 weeks, but she was already starting to dream about him. He had been very mature the past weeks, and it made him more desirable. She couldn't contain her excitement as started to get dressed. It was time to spy on her little bodyguard. As soon as she was dressed, she shunshined herself to a specific spot at her private training field. Mei could already see Naruto at his usual spot. She watched him with dreamy eyes as he continued to concentrate in his meditation. She continued to watch until she felt another person watching him. She recognized the familiar chakra, but what was he doing here? Mei immediately disappeared from her spot, but only to reappear on another tree branch. "What are you doing here, Chojuro?" Mei asked in a hushed tone, catching Chojuro totally by surprise. He then lost his balance, which resulted in him falling down from the tree. But before he could make a single noise, Mei had managed to get a hold on Chojuro's collar. She easily pulled him up, considering that he wasn't wielding his gigantic sword at the moment. "Mizukage-sama?" he said with a tone of pure surprise. "What are you doing here? That's what I asked you. Now answer me," she commanded. Chojuro sighed. "I just wanted to see how Naruto-san trains. I wanted to know how he got to become so confident in himself," he admitted. His eyes were cast down, and he was fidgeting with his fingers. He then looked up to her. "But what are you doing here?" Mei looked away, blushing. "I just felt that I should check on my bodyguard," she said with a pout. "What? Is it wrong to do so?" No, he blurted, afraid that she might kill him. The two then continued to watch Naruto in silence. The sun was just about up, as the top bit of the sun was just barely visible. The sky was a mix of orange and purple, but also a tinge of pink was visible. "What are you doing up there, Mizukage-sama?" a sudden voice asked. Mei coughed on her own breath as she heard the voice. The voice caught her by surprise that it even caused her to lose her balance on the tree branch. Though before she could feel the impact, a pair of strong arms grabbed hold of her around the waist. Naruto easily hauled her up to him. Her face was a bit dazed from his sudden appearance. "You alright there, Mei-chan?" Mei noticed that his blue eyes looked amazing if contrasted to the early morning sky, but she was brought out of her trance as fast as got in. The sudden Mei-chan startled her. Chojuro coughed as he heard what Naruto had called her. No one had called her that, and they knew better than to do it. This Naruto person that he barely knew was a gutsy person. He reckoned that Naruto was probably the only person in the whole world that would be dumb enough to stand against the Mizukage. He didn't know what to do, and he didn't want to be caught into the fight, and so, he slightly inches away from the two, gradually increasing the distance between them. "Mei-chan, now?" Naruto had to slap himself for that. He was so used to calling girls close to him that he didn't even realize that he had said it. "Oh, I'm sorry about that, Mei-sama. I didn't mean to scare you." No. I don't mind you calling me that, Naruto-kun. And please, you didn't scare me, you just took me by surprise. Naruto moved back and laughed. Whatever you say, Mei-chan, he said with an all-knowing grin. I'll just leave you to your business. Naruto jumped off the branch and landed safely on the ground before walking back to his original spot. Hey Naruto-kun, wait a sec! Mei called out. She jumped off after him and ran to his side. Why were you hiding your training from me? She asked. Naruto raised an eyebrow. I wasn't hiding my training from you. Then why were you sneaking out to train, She pushed. Surely you're hiding something? Naruto laughed. Mei-chan, I wasn't hiding anything, I just didn't want to wake you up. That's all. Because God knows that you need all the sleep you can get, he stated. Was that why? Naruto seemed more caring than she had ever thought. Oh. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, you better get ready for work. Who knows what the council's gonna say to you if you come in late, Naruto warned. Just like any council, they were all known to be pushy and sometimes annoying. I have a day off today, actually, she said as a matter of fact. And I think I need a little exercise. Sitting in that damn office for hours made my body a bit tight. Maybe you could help me by being my sparring partner. Naruto coughed out hard. Me? Your sparring partner? Are you serious? Why? What's so wrong about it? Naruto started to sweat. He had heard about what the Mizukage could do from the other Kirinin, and all of what he heard, he didn't want to experience himself. I mean, like, why me? 'Cause you could always pick someone else. Oh, well, she put on a sly smile. You are my bodyguard after all. I just wanted to see how skillful you are, considering all the stories I heard about you. I want to see them for myself, she explained with that same sly smile of hers. Unless you're scared, of course. Mei knew that Naruto was nothing other than strong, and she wanted to see what he could do, but she was also serious about this being a good exercise for her body. Konoha, a day after Naruto's departure, Tsunade sighed to herself. The Akatsuki were being a bit too quiet for her liking. Why weren't they doing anything? Anyhow, she hoped that hiding Naruto in Kirigakure was a good idea, because she felt like something big was about to happen. The feeling was lingering in her stomach for a while, and it was bothering her. Come on, Naruto. Fight me. Mei challenged me. After 5 minutes of trying to convince him, it wasn't going too well. Naruto was being stubborn about this, and it annoyed her. Unless you're pussying out? I am not. I just don't want to, hurt you, but actually, he was being a pussy. He did not want to get his balls melted. Please, you won't even touch me. She was just taunting him now, trying to get him a bit fired up, and hoping that it would result in him fighting her. Why was he scared of her anyway? It wasn't like she was going to melt or boil his balls off, right? You got your answer there, so what's the point of fighting, huh? Naruto could feel his heartbeat fastened. Yeah, I got to go now anyway. He took the chance to bolt into the distance, but sighed and cursed when he felt someone took hold of his collar. So are you going to fight me, or not? Her tone was absolute, and Naruto knew that there was no way to escape it. She loosened her grip on his collar, freeing him from her grasp. Naruto sighed again. There was no way to do this than to fight her. Fine, he breathed, defeated. I guess there's no other way to do this. He groggily stood up and faced her, a smirk appearing on his face. But I warned you, you won't like the outcome of this. He tightened his Konoha forehead protector, and took a simple fighting stance. I guess I can try out my new technique now. Mei also took her own fighting stance. Yeah, you are right. I wouldn't like the outcome too, knowing that my bodyguard is weaker than me, she said, also holding her own smirk. Let's see how you hold up with this. She made a quick succession of hand seals, faster than the eye could see. Fire release. Grand fireball. Immediately, she made a finger ring around her mouth and blew out probably one of the largest fireballs that Naruto had ever seen. But as big as the fireball was, it wasn't impossible to dodge. He rolled off to his right, completely dodging the big ball. He was about to counter the attack by attacking back, but it seemed that Mei was already making more hand seals for another. Earth release. Thorns of the underworld. She slammed her palm into the ground. For a second, nothing happened, but a second later, the ground started to shake. Naruto could feel what was coming, and he knew it would hurt if he didn't move now. Stone spikes started erupting from the ground, and he could feel it coming from under him. Immediately, he took off into the air, as high as he could. He managed to avoid the pointy rocks by not even an inch. Still in midair, Naruto made a standard one-hand move. He had to use this to destroy those rocks as he landed, or his ass would have been penetrated by one of those spikes. You're doing pretty well, Naruto. But do you know what happens when rocks melt? Naruto inwardly gulped. Here comes the lava. After another quick succession of hand seals, she stopped at and held the tiger seal. Her eyes were tight with concentration, as she yelled out, "Lava release!" Magma pool. The rocks that were still surrounding him started to melt. It was melting right in front of his eyes. They were glowing red hot, and were slowly turning into liquid. Naruto could also feel the earth under his feet starting to get hot. Was Mei heating the ground? He couldn't do much other than jump into the trees. It seemed that Mei was only heating at one spot. Mei hadn't moved an inch from her spot, and from that, Naruto knew that she was a long-distance fighter. And from what Naruto could tell, a small area of grass was left around her. From experience, Naruto knew that all long-distance shinobi like to attack from a distance, and it looked like Mei was trying to keep him away by covering the area around her with lava. He could just jump in at her and attack head-on. But that wouldn't work. She would just shoot rocks or lava at him before he could even reach her. He could try and cool the lava down, but he wasn't a water user. Would his wind chakra work? The wind could cool the lava down. Mei was currently enjoying the moment. She had covered the area around her with lava, and there was no way Naruto could get across. She knew that he was hiding in a tree somewhere, and he had hidden his chakra completely. From what she could tell, she was on the winning side. A wind. That was all Naruto needed to do, but he didn't. Rasen Shuriken would just destroy the whole field, and there was a slight chance that it could hit Mei, and by far, he didn't have any other wind affinity in his arsenal. Well, actually he did, but it was no use in this situation. But then, a thought came to his head, a grin came to his face. It was time to see what his training had done to him. Chojuro had watched the two shinobi argue, and now, he was intrigued at the battle the two were having, and from the explosion Naruto had created from his swirling blue ball, it had attracted quite a lot of attention. Beside him were a couple of other Kiri shinobis that had heard the blast, and it seemed others were coming. He had a feeling that this fight was going to take a while. It had been a couple of minutes now and Naruto had not come out of hiding. Mei suspected that Naruto was attempting something, but what was it? Or did he take the chance to run away? But she was answered when she heard a kunai slicing through the air, heading straight to her. But she didn't even have to move an inch to dodge it. It just barely missed her head. You have to work on your aiming, Naruto-kun. A second later, a second kunai came down, followed by a whole barrage of it. Mei evaded all of them easily. What was with all the kunai attacks? He couldn't have beaten Pain if he was like this. Was he holding back against her? Because she knew that he was better than this. Come on, Naruto-kun. You're boring me. Suddenly, Naruto flashed in front of her, landing a full fist blow on her stomach. But he suddenly disappeared as fast as he appeared. The blow left her winded for a second. How was Naruto able to appear that fast, but disappeared with the same speed a second later? Naruto was breathing heavily as he reappeared back at his hiding spot. He himself didn't need to use much chakra, but he still wasn't used to using it. He still got dizzy after using it. But right now, he was able to flash in front or anywhere near the Mizukage easily. He had actually marked all his kunai with the special Horatian seal. And so, the kunai he had thrown before was his key to winning. Time to get back into the fight. The lava around her had slightly cooled off, but she didn't care anymore. Naruto had somehow found a way to attack her directly, and that made her a bit more cautious of her surroundings. She was suddenly kicked at her sides, but before she could get him back, he was already gone. This went on for quite a while. She was hit from all sides at speeds that she deemed to be impossible. Mei tried to figure out his pattern, if there was one, but it was all completely random. She knew that Naruto was holding back his attacks, because the amount of power he put in his attacks were that of a child. If he was an enemy, and she was stuck in the same situation, she would already be dead. Suddenly, Naruto's attack stopped, giving Mei time to finally react. She formed multiple hand seals at speeds that only came from years of practice. It was time to reveal where that blonde fox was. She was tired of this. Earth release. Ground breaker. She slammed her palm into the ground, causing massive shockwaves that sent Naruto out of his tree. He made an oof sound as he landed roughly on the ground. Mei found what she wanted and went straight for the kill. Found you, Naruto-kun. Water release. Water dragon missile. She blasted out a massive amount of water to Naruto. The water split into two and shifted their shapes into dragons. Both of them hit Naruto, pushing him back into a tree. Another oof came out of him as he was slammed into the tree. She then proceeded into her next attack. Earth release. Devouring earth. The earth under Naruto started to spiral inwards, bringing Naruto's still slumped body in it. But before Naruto's head was sucked into the ground, the spiral stopped and the ground softened into mud, before hardening itself. 3/4 of Naruto's body was under the ground. She smirked at her handiwork. Seemed like she got him in a pretty tight situation. Mei walked over to Naruto's head with a laugh. I guess the match is over, Naruto-kun. She kneeled in front of him and poked his nose playfully. She was expecting him to look up at her with a pout or a frown, but she did not expect him to be grinning. The head suddenly exploded into a smoke screen, and managed to catch her by surprise. She immediately got into her fighting stance as she felt Naruto charging at her from behind. Actually, make those two Narutos. The two proceeded into attacking her, one attempting to sweep kick her legs, while the other one was going for a straight punch to her face. She avoided the attacks by jumping up, avoiding the kick, and also managed at the same time to catch the fist of the other one. She used this to her advantage and kicked one of them out of existence. Suddenly, more and more Narutos came into the fight. The more of them she killed, the more came. It was never ending. It seemed like sending a mass of shadow clones in. This attack wasn't a very good idea. The more he sent it, the more of them died. He found that this tactic was a chakra waste. Maybe it was time to end this fight with a good old, traditional, taijutsu. Naruto stopped producing clones, and waited decided that it was time to join in the fight. You sure are using a lot of chakra for this, Naruto-kun. I think this battle is dragging a bit. I think it's time we end this. Fire release, impact. Both of her palms glowed red before it started to catch on fire. She then slammed her flaming palms onto the ground, creating a fire burst that exploded outwards, totally destroying all of Naruto's clones. She smirked at the result. What are you going to do next, Naruto-kun? This. Naruto threw a kunai at her which was easily deflected with her own. He then jumped straight at her with a kunai in his hands, ready to slice her head off. Mei saw his head in attack and knew that this was her chance, creating the hand seals needed. She unleashed a powerful gush of water out of her mouth, to Naruto. Now, the only thing in Naruto's way was the water attack, but luckily, he already planned for this. A split second before the water could touch him, Naruto disappeared in a flash of yellow, but appeared behind Mei a second later, at where the kunai he had thrown before. He sweep kicked her legs. It took her completely by surprise, and threw her out of balance. She then proceeded to fall backwards, but before the fall was completed, Naruto had caught her in his arms. So is that enough for today? Naruto's chest was heaving up and down, and his face was full of sweat. Mei was still surprised by his sneaky trick. She didn't even see him move, unless the one jumping towards her was a shadow clone, and the real one was hiding somewhere behind her. Now that the sun was up, Mei couldn't help but blush when she saw Naruto's face shining in front of the sun. He looked amazing. I guess this will be enough for today, Naruto-kun. She sighed before getting up. The two were then startled when they heard people clapping. All around them were Kiri ninjas with smiles and grins on their faces. Some of them yelled out nice job or that was badass. Naruto grinned and waved back at them, while the Mizukage just smiled. After all the commotion, the two were on their way back to the house. They didn't speak to each other. Instead, they were both trying to avoid looking at each other. Mei was feeling rather uncomfortable, for some reason. Her face was still red-hot even though her body had already cooled down, and her heartbeat was rather active, more so than usual. While Naruto, also feeling uncomfortable, felt as though something was boiling in his stomach. Another week passed without a hitch. Though for Naruto and Mei, it was probably the hardest week of their lives. They hadn't spoken to each other as much as they used to, as the two tend to try and avoid a conversation with each other. The truth was, Mei was having trouble with her feelings for him. It started out small, but then it grew, and grew until it became something that she dared to speak of. She didn't know how to approach the subject as she knew that her feelings for him were just wrong. She was 9 years older than him for God's sake, but that certain feeling was slowly overpowering her judgments. Mei, now clothed in her see-through nightgown, was in bed, reading a particular book. She should be sleeping right now, as it was past midnight, but her eyes were being stubborn. Her mind, though, was very exhausted. Things were getting very complicated with the war that was going on. Akatsuki hadn't attacked or made a single move after Madara's declaration of war. The Reikage had made Kumogakure the main ops base, and it would be where all the village's army would assemble, including Kiri's. A meeting was also called there. It would be held in a week's time. She predicted that it would probably be about the Jinchurikis. Of course, they were the Akatsuki's current goal, and it was the Elemental Alliance's top priority to protect them. Her thoughts then drifted to Naruto. The interaction between them was suddenly dimming. She didn't know why, but after the fight, Naruto seemed to be less talkative, not to mention that he was a bit paler than usual. Maybe he was sick. She had to put that thought away when she heard some unexpected noise. She could hear ragged breathing, like somebody was having a heart attack. Maybe it was Naruto. Maybe he was really sick. Mei immediately jumped out of her bed and ran straight to Naruto's room. She didn't care that she was practically, almost naked. She busted down Naruto's door and leaped to his side and took in the situation. Naruto was drenched in sweat. His sheets were almost completely soaked from them. His body was tense. Every muscle in his body was clenching, and he was thrashing around wildly on his bed with his teeth gritted tightly. His face showed an expression of pain, and also sadness. From all the sweat on his face, Mei was surprised that she could tell the difference from the sweat and tears. "Naruto?" she said in a soft, gentle, soothing tone, but her voice didn't get through to him. Mei then decided that she should put a bit more force. She roughly scooped his head up and brought it to her chest. She hugged it and gently rubbed his hair and cheek while whispering soothing words into his ear. Soon enough, the blonde's breathing became calmer and even, while his face softened up. A small smile of relief appeared on Mei's face. She let out a gentle sigh as she saw his calm sleeping face. A small smile also appeared on his face as he buried his face deeper into her chest. "Mei-chan," Naruto suddenly murmured. She blushed at his sudden movement, but nonetheless the smile stayed up as she continued to gently caress his hair and cheeks. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.